Man, the Twins are making a lot of news these days. They actually signed a player whose name we recognize, but we have to get to the ownership news first. And LaVelle was over there talking to everybody, so he's going to give us some insights on that. We'll do a big picture news show on the Twins this week. Next week, we will have more of a year-end show that you can enjoy that'll hit all kinds of different topics. But for today, let's get to it. This is the Chin Music Show, talknorth.com. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio.
This holiday season, bring a little extra magic home with Aquarius Home Services, your authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Enjoy worry-free water that makes every moment shine, sparkling dishes, softer laundry, and refreshing worry-free drinking water. Right now, save up to 25% on a Connecticut whole home water treatment system. Schedule your free water analysis at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius in Connecticut, earning the right to be recommended.
We're also presented by Onyx Hunt and Onyx Fish. Thanks also to Minnesota Masonic Charities and Clamshell Beach Resorts. Lineup today, Roy Smalley, former Twins star, former Twins broadcaster, LaVelle Neal III, Star Tribune columnist and baseball guru. I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. We appreciate you listening. We all have a great lineup. Go to TalkNorth.com and see the best lineup in sports in Minnesota. And I appreciate everybody who's helped us get to this point. LaVelle, let's start here. After talking to people, after hearing Tom Pohlad talk, after doing some reporting, just put it all in perspective for me. Why did all this happen? Why is Tom Pohlad replacing Joe Pohlad? Why did the Twins decide not to sell? And what is the impact of the new minority investors?
Yeah, I think the one thing that's obvious out of this is that this is an indictment on Joe and some of the things he's done and said through the years. Because about a month ago, they all sat down and presented Joe with their decision to, have Tom take over, and Joe resisted, which I can understand why, because it makes it look like he didn't get the job done. Plus, he probably wanted that opportunity to kind of steer the franchise back into relevance. But the family decided that Tom is best for that right now, which is rather interesting because they were kind of like opposites as far as their interest in baseball. Joe was willing to work through up the ladder. He worked in various departments, game day operations, ran the radio station, some stuff in the baseball office. I still remember he was in charge of the players' social media accounts. I remember him the day he was getting Danny Valencia his Twitter handle for the first time, and he told Danny, he said, "Danny, I don't want you to F this up." Tom.
That's a fair statement.
It's a fair statement. It's a great commentary on the nature of Twitter and on the nature of Danny Valencia.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tom went to Boston College, and then after college, he actually served a year internship with Major League Baseball. But he decided to take another path after that year was up. It looked like, basically the way he explained it, it sounded like he was just a young guy in his 20s from a rich family living in New York, which you can't go wrong, for a year.
It's not bad living.
No, it's not bad living at all. So, but he ended up going through the business side because I rarely saw Tom at the ballpark through the years. I didn't know how much interest he had in baseball versus business, but he's going to be the guy now. And so they felt they needed a change for this next era of the organization. As far as limited partners, it's a pretty interesting group. They did a great job of keeping us under wraps. We heard about the guy from Vardy Investments and Craig Leopold. That's a surprise addition. And a couple other people too. The mystery family from New York, and the Glick family, and apparently the head of the family is rarely photoed and it's reclusive and secretive. So this is a very interesting group. But they come out on the other side of this is that they're nearly $500 million in debt is going to get paid down. And that's going to give them some flexibility. In my opinion, it's flexibility that makes them more attractive to be sold sometime in the next 3 to 4 years. Because now, and in addition to some of the other things they've done, they've laid off people. They laid off scouts and people in baseball operations. They've laid off people in the ticket office and other departments. It just looks like they're making this team more attractive to be purchased because of, you know, a little less overhead. As far as winning, I mean, Tom indicated yesterday that, you know, could they put $60 million into the payroll? Yeah, but they're not prepared to do that quite yet. So that tells you these next couple of years are going to be kind of lean. They're going to probably keep the payroll around $120 million. I think everybody's waiting to see what happens with the labor negotiation following the 2026 season, which very well could lead into a work stoppage. You know, I know the owners want a hard salary cap because other sports have it, and all those other sports have franchise valuations that have increased more rapidly than baseball's has. I don't know if they're going to be able to win over the most powerful union in sports to agree to a cap. It may have to be a tougher luxury luxury tax. It might have to be something like the NBA has when you have a first apron and a second apron, or some other system. But I don't know if they're going to get the salary cap they seek. There's going to be other changes in terms of revenue sharing among clubs and the TV deal situation, which, you know, the Dodgers and Yankees are getting $300-400 million a year from their TV deals. The last time we heard the Twins received $54.8 million in the last year of their regional sports network deal. That, you know, of course, as we all know, the company went bankrupt, and I don't think the Twins are making that much now. So things look like it's going to be some bloodletting, but I think by 2028 or 2029, baseball's going to have a financial house in more order than it is now. And if they do get some sort of cost certainty in terms of payroll, it could lead to franchise values rising. And I just think that 4 or 5 years from now, the Twins could be worth $4 billion. And I believe the reason that the Twins were entertaining a sale is because they probably want to divide the wealth now. So you're going to tell me that if I wait till 2029 and my assets worth $4 billion instead of 1.75, I think I'm gonna wait. So I think they're going to try to be competitive with, you know, the youngest roster they have, fill in the holes with reasonably priced free agents. But I don't see any splashy free agent signings for the coming years. I know that's not what Twins fans want to hear, but it's the reality. And, you know, we are here to inform, and we are here to manage expectations. So I'm just managing expectations here. There's not going to be a tidal wave of cash going into the payroll to sign Kyle Tucker. You know, it's just not going to happen, folks. So, but it's an interesting day. The Tom for Joe swap, you know, ended up being more of a story than the actual limited partners being announced, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Well, Roy, you work in the financial industry. You know the Twins. What do you make of all this?
Well, I think I have a couple of thoughts. I think LaVelle has summed it up really well.
Yes.
And, you know, I don't know if $4 billion, you know, potentially, I suppose, depending on the collective bargaining agreement. And as an aside, speaking of the collective bargaining agreement, ever since I was in the league back right after Babe Ruth retired, they've been saying, you know, free agency came in, and every year we'd hear from the fans and the media, the players are making enough money. I mean, isn't this ridiculous? And every collective bargaining agreement, they wanted a salary cap, and the message from everybody except the players was, you're making enough money. And, you know, here we are all these years later. So what are we, 50 years from the advent of free agency, and player salaries have gone up 10, 20, 30 times. And through all of that, you know, players are making, you know, too much money, or isn't that enough money? Why would you strike? Why would you have a problem with this? So, I mean, that's what the collective bargaining agreement process is facing, is, you know, players and ex-players saying, yeah, we've heard all this before. I mean, we get it, you know, I mean, but but the revenue just keeps going up. And so it's going to be a tough deal. Plus, you know, this group of players and their agents and their representatives in the union, I think are really loath to be the group of people that says that will go down in history saying we ended, the players' run, in terms of holding out, and we brought in, the hard salary cap. We're the group that brought in the hard salary cap. There's a ton of history going back to Marvin Miller about, the players being as LaVelle said, the strongest union there is, and they're proud of that. And it's a legacy of winning in collective bargaining that's going to be tough, right? So that's what they're facing, coming up. And the only reason I bring all that up is I think LaVelle's right. The way the valuation of the Twins is going to go up is, through having a hard cap or having, their valuation is not going to go up until there's some kind of way where the $300 or $400 million local TV and radio in some markets versus the less than 50 million in the Twins market. I mean, that in and of itself should tell that's it in a nutshell. That is what it is. That's why the budget for the Twins is going to be what it is. So, short of the new investors coming in and saying, look, we want to win, we want to be a part of something, big right away, and we'll pay the debt, we'll put up some more money. That not being the case, then I think LaVelle's analysis is spot on. And even if it's double, even if it's 3 billion instead of 1.6 or 7, it's probably, it's probably worth waiting for them. So for me, those are kind of the issues that we see here in the whole scenario.
And $2 billion with no debt would also be a huge improvement on their investment as well. Yeah,
right. So I mean, they really are. They're making the they're affecting margin. They're trying to affect profit margin and free cash flow, and there's only one way to do it in their minds right now.
All right, let's get to some more Twins issues. Let's go to the field. We're going to be talking about the ownership situation, the CBA all winter. Let's get to some actual baseball news. First, we want to tell you about Onyx Hunt. Have you ever driven past a piece of land and wondered who owns that, or maybe you need to know exactly where a property line runs? That's where Onyx Hunt comes in, and it's not just for hunters. There are folks using Onyx for their jobs every day throughout the country, from farmers and ranchers mapping out their fields, wildland firefighters navigating rough terrain, to construction workers needing to know who owns what property. This app offers something for everyone. If you need the best land ownership maps, aerial imagery, and property boundaries in your pocket, Onyx Hunt is the tool for the job. Try it free for 7 days. Download Onyx Hunt in the app or Google Play Store, or visit onyxmaps.com/hunt to get started. We also want to thank Minnesota Masonic Charities.
Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. But my dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North, and a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz.
And here's Talk North star Michael Russo for Clamshell Beach Resorts.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, Go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
All right, so the Twins signed Josh Bell. Almost a predictable kind of signing, right? Not too expensive. A veteran hitter you can put in the middle of the lineup, has a little bit of thump, can be a professional. Roy, what's your view of this move?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Josh Bell will provide some excitement here and there for the Twins. I think he is a middle of the lineup guy in this particular lineup. And you never know. I mean, he might catch fire and have a better year than 22 home runs and the slash line that he had last year. I think it's pretty safe. It doesn't hurt payroll too much. It gives them a switch hitter in the middle lineup that at a position where they didn't really have somebody that they were uber comfortable with in terms of offense and defense. So, I mean, it's fine. I mean, and like going back to what LaVelle said, I mean, this is probably about as big a splash as they're going to make from a signing like that. The only other splash I could see is some kind of trade. So, it's fine.
True. Yeah, Josh Bell's not known for his defense, but he's been fairly durable. He played in 140 games last year, 145 the year before that, 150 the year before that. He's going to provide some power. I think he hit 37 homers in the season once. He drove in like over 100 runs, but he's 32 now. If he's going to play 140 games or so, then he could probably run up into 20 to 23 homers, and this is a league where you want your first baseman to hit like 30 or 35. So you kind of getting what you pay for. The funny part is one of my buddies was like, why is Josh Bell getting $7 million a year? And I said, because Jorge Polanco's getting $20 million a year.
Right.
or Jorge's agent needs to get an award for that one. And good for Jorge to get a 2-year, $40 million deal with the Mets to play first base where he's not very good at, as well as some DH, which I'm going to get some Josh Bell at DH as well. But as soon as Jorge signed that, I think that helped out everybody below him, including Josh Bell, to get the $7 million.
Yeah, well said. What do you think this team is going to do about the bullpen? Are there any names out there that either you're hearing or that intrigue you? Let's start with LaVelle this time.
I looked at the free agent list a few days ago, and nothing really jumped out at me. I think a lot of solutions, most of the solutions will be in-house. They may find another Brock Stewart type out there. A guy who has a live-ass arm, that may have had, injury history in the past, and then see if they can get him to tweak something or hope he stays healthy where he could be, effective. I think some of these starters that they've traded for and have added to their starting pitcher inventory could be shifted to the bullpen. Maybe someone like Mick Abel, there seems to be a debate ongoing within the organization about what to do with Connor Pralip, who is a lefty who throws 96, 97 with a terrific slider. But he hasn't been able to pitch a lot in the minors because of injuries. And he's at that Nolan Duran point to me where he doesn't have that base where you can build him up to being a guy who can go at least 150 innings in a season. So I think Connor's best option is to become a left-handed reliever out of the bullpen. I think he has a chance to be really, really good in that role if the Twins try him in the bullpen. It was funny because when they were trying to make a decision about Duran, I was like, but God, think about Duran as a starter. You just think if you ever just get a little bit more innings out of him so he could build into a starter, he'd be great with all that stuff he throws. Well, he ended up being a fantastic closer and also being traded to Philadelphia. So I think most of their solutions may be in-house, but you may have that guy come out of nowhere who's had like an injury history, like a Stewart, being added to the mix as a spring training invite. On another relief note, I was talking to Twins officials after the presser yesterday, and they were down at Orlando for the winter meetings. And they said, "You're not going to believe who we ran into with his family in Orlando when we walked out of the hotel." I said, "Who?" They said, Emilio Pagan. And I was like, that was the guy defending, because he was getting roasted in town. I was like, well, if you keep him out of the 8th and 9th inning and don't let him face a lefty, he could be serviceable. And he ended up being decent, and he just re-signed with the Reds. Yep. So more power to Emilio for hanging in there.
Roy, what do you see as the answers for this bullpen?
Good for Emilio. I'm really happy for him. He had a great attitude. He kept grinding when he's here, and everybody was on him. And I was always a supporter of his. Well, I really thought that stuff was going to play in some way for the Twins or some team. And he's done well with the Reds, and I'm glad for him. The only thing I would add to what LaVelle said is again kind of big picture. When all the things that we talked about earlier about the payroll and TV and what the Twins are trying to do in terms of getting the team in really good financial shape for a potential sale at some point, all of that stuff, adding to the fact that what we've talked about before, the Twins have a whole roster all the way down through AAA that there's very few people that aren't question marks, right? So you can see where they're going with this in terms of not signing anybody, even trying to repair the bullpen. To LaVelle's point about some of the young arms that have been starters might go in there. I think it's really not, given this whole situation, it's really not that bad an idea. And I know the fans will hate it. And if they lose 100 games, it's going to seem like a really bad idea. But they got to find out who they have. They don't know who they have yet. They don't know. We've said this a ton. I mean, they don't know who Royce Lewis is. They don't know who Brooks Lee is. They think they know about Keishel. They don't know about Wallner. They're just, and they don't have a bullpen, but they've got a whole bunch of arms down there that are really pretty good. So why not just say, you know what? Best 5 starters are going to start. And the rest of the 10 guys that might have, or 15 guys that might be AAA and bullpen, knock yourselves out is the competition. And we're going to make some decisions about a lot of things when we know what we have. It would be difficult for them to make any big free agent splash here without knowing what Royce Lewis and Brooks Lee and Matt Wallner and others are going to do. I think so. Where LaVelle's going with this, I think applies to the whole organization or to the whole roster.
And piggybacking off that, let's segue back into the Pohlads, because one thing that was consistent with Joe and now Tom is they like to say that we really want to win, and then you ask them how much money they're going to spend, and they basically say less or the same. Right. And listen, Milwaukee won a lot of games last year without spending money. There are teams that find a way to contend, compete, win without spending a lot of money. But this fan base judges the Pohlads by their willingness to spend. So how does this organization manage that question where they're basically saying, we want to win, but we're not going to spend money?
There's one thing Tom brought up during the press yesterday, was like trying to thread the needle on that one, because people get obsessed over payroll, how much a team is spending. And he sat there and talked longingly about trying to regain trust with the fan base and regain their support. Winning does do that. But at the same time, there's a perception out there, regardless if it's true or not, because I will say, I'll always remind myself that they did take a big swing in signing Carlos Correa. It ended up giving him about $100 million over 3 years, and it didn't work out. But at the same time, they're going to be judged about how they're going to fund and invest in this on-field roster. they've got to cross their fingers that they hit on these young players, and they have one of the greatest developmental years ever. And a lot of those position players take a step forward, and to the point where, and hopefully the starting rotation, becomes a force on this team here, and they can fill in blanks with the bullpen. They need a big development year, and to show some hope here. I think this first year, it's going to be on what the guys on the field are able to produce. If they could surprise people, and in the AL Central, I mean, it's possible. With Cleveland and the Royals and the White Sox, Detroit's probably the favorite going into next year. But if they win 10 games more than they did a year ago, I think you could sell hope to the fan base, which they can possibly get behind. But they're fighting the uphill battle here because of what they've done to the pair the last couple of years, and plus the already existing perception that they're cheap. So they're not really going to appease the fan base unless they can just turn this bad boy around and win. I'm curious to see what Tom can say or do that Joe could not do or say to keep the fans engaged. That's going to be a big key here in 2026.
Let's let Roy have the final word. Again, next week's show will be more of a fun show about all kinds of maybe our favorite baseball movies, favorite baseball songs. We'll do our Booze and Blues segment next week. This week I wanted to keep it all baseball because there's so much going on. Roy, you get the floor for your final thought on anything regarding the Pohlads, the Twins, baseball in general.
Well, I will say this about the Twins and 2026. It really is all on the starting pitching right now and on some key young players stepping forward. So is there going to be anything positive at all, or are they going to lose 110 games? If Pablo Lopez and Joe Ryan and Bailey Ober all really step forward as to who we think they are and have demonstrated they are as in their best form as pitchers, and they get one of the other three, whether it's Festa or Zebby Matthews or whatever other starter, just one of those guys, step forward, and then Royce Lewis and pick somebody. Royce Lewis and Brooks Lee go off, and Josh Bell is typical or better Josh Bell. They're going to win a lot of games, and that could lead to the fans not being as disgruntled, having a decent year, and get the Twins front office a little bit more excited and willing to say, okay, let's figure out what we're going to do here in 2027. It could be okay. It could be disastrous. And once again, it's on the players. I mean, the players are the ones that do it. Ultimately, it's on Falvey. Because he is the architect of this roster, the guys that were here before and the guys that are no longer here, and the guys that they're counting on. And if the guys they're counting on don't make it, then ultimately it was on Falvey for making a mistake about players. So we're back to that. Who's going to step up? Who's going to what are we going to see? Are we going to see any stars emerge from what this front office has done over the last 4 or 5 years?
Well said. Good stuff, guys. Looking forward to the Christmas edition. Thanks to everyone who listens. We'll talk to you next week.